Hello YouTubes, this is Grimweird coming back at you with more Enigmatic 2 Expert Mod Pack playthrough action for Minecraft 1.12.2. As always, we are joined by our lovely avatar, Zombie Steve. And today, let's see. Well, last time we tried beating up a wither and we played around a bit with the um, special crystals that come out of here. They said they were wither-proof, but I think that means they're just not destroyed by the wither. Didn't appear to be blocking the blast or containing the wither. I didn't test that exhaustively, but bottom line was might as well just go ahead and make some real wither-proof blocks through the refined or the reinforced obsidian way, and that requires grains of infinity. Now, normally grains of infinity come from um, using a flint and steel and clicking it on bedrock. Um, so if we come over here, let's see, grab one of these bad boys. You basically click on them, and I think they got about a 50% chance when they die out of spawning a grain of infinity. Boom, boom, boom. Give this a second. It sounds like popcorn when it goes off. And of course it doesn't do it because I'm filming. This is why we're not doing this manually. Because this gets old quick. There it goes. So there we have a grain of infinity. The fire doesn't destroy it. And there's another. So we need to collect a bunch of these to use for wither-proof. We're going to make wither-proof blocks from reinforced obsidian and black dye. And the reinforced obsidian is obsidian with a bunch of dark iron bars and grains of infinity put into it. So to make ourselves a little wither trap to build the wither boss in, we're going to need, I don't know, maybe 100 of these blocks, which means we're going to need maybe, I don't know, 400 grains of infinity since it's 4 per block. Something like that. I think this guy killed his thing. So here's what I did. I'm not going to stand around and click things all day. So what I've got going on here is I had a bunch of dispensers. So the pirate ships, and I don't know where those structures come from, maybe Biomes O'Plenty, but there are pirate ships out along the coast of the oceans. Um, and actually, let's take a look, see if we can spot one. So, there's one. These guys. These pirate ships, they use dispensers for cannon. They don't actually fire them, but they have a bunch of fire charges in them and whatnot. And there are three, and three. So I'm guessing around 12 dispensers on each pirate ship. And you can see there's one. I think here's another one. So the bottom line is, while I was flying around killing stuff, I've killed, I don't know, probably 3 or 4 of those. Plus, I've picked a few dispensers up elsewhere. So the bottom line is, I have dispensers. And if we take a look at the dispenser, when you put it down, it shoots towards you. It dispenses towards you. It's got that little sort of surprised, ecstatic face on it. And when you open it up, it just has a little inventory here. So what you can do is you can just slap a flint and steel in there, and instead of shooting the flint and steel at people, it actually tries to use it. No power, no muss, no fuss, nothing required. Give it a redstone signal, and it'll click the place in front of it. And, pardon me. And so what we've got here is an RF Tools timer. If we open it up, you can put a delay on it. Don't really need to. I don't think these use up I don't think these use up durability on the flint and steel unless they are actually clicking on a empty air. So I don't think they burn through it on fire. I was sitting here watching one of these guys. I gave this guy a semi-broken one anyway, and I was watching to make sure. I had this sped up to like no delay, so it was going click, 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 and it basically the flint and steel only went down in durability when it actually started a fire. The only reason I have the timer delay set lower is just because the clicking was driving me nuts. But yeah, so here you can see it. I got a vacuum chest from Ender.io here. We are now up to 9 on our 10th stack. If you look at the range on these, you can hit hide range and show range. So I got plenty of range where this is to suck up all of the stuff, and you can watch them pop and then go whoop, fly up in the air, little trails of fire behind them. So that's sort of cool. And so this seems to be working just fine. We're going to hide the range again. This max range is 6, so I definitely could have done more of these. I put them back to back, so I'd have to only run one line of redstone. The redstone signal, I think it's been a long time since I did it's redstone engineering, but I think it'll go out. This pulse will go out about strength 15, so it seems to be going fine all the way to the wall. No problem there. And yeah, that's what I got going on. And I do have a few more of these, but I think that's plenty. So we're just going to let this run for a few hours and occasionally check to make sure that the durability on the flint and steels is okay. Because you can see it does slowly go down. Flint and steels don't have a ton of uses on them, so these will break down, and I have a few more here. If I wanted to, I could put a chest here, run some item cable here. So probably what I would do is I would just block. Yeah, I don't want to do that necessarily. I don't know. If these go burning through, if these burn through things too fast, we can always make mechanical users and then feed them new flint and steels with items. But to be honest, this is going reasonably well, reasonably fast. I think I probably only need 10 stacks right at the moment, and I've about got it. So I'm just going to sort of keep an eye on it and come back over here every once in a while and put more flint and steels in it if I need to. Now, there is other ways to do this. You can use mechanical users, which are basically a similar type of thing, but you have a bit more control over them. And there are a few other things you could do, but there's also, if we take a look at Grains of Infinity, there are recipes that allow you to, we're just doing this stuff. You can put burning liquid. There are other things you can use to light up the bedrock, like a fire bucket, water, or fire bucket, etc. Once you have these guys, you can sag mill them, and so you can combine them into a block. So 9 of these go into a block. That's pretty self-explanatory. And then you can put them in a sag mill and break them back down into 9, and you get a little leftover infinity dust. And so if you do that a bunch, you can then, if we go to uses of infinity dust, it doesn't tell us much. Well, no, I'm not seeing it. I had heard that there was a recipe that let you then combine the dust. Let's take a look. If I mouse over and hit U, I'm not seeing anything. Oh, here we go. Nope. I wonder if they took it out, because when I Googled this, they said you could get the dust and you could combine 9 dust into a dust block, and then you could grind that and get grains back out. And so you could set up a circle of constantly grinding blocks and etc. But I don't know. Maybe they took that out, or maybe I'm just not seeing the recipe. Bottom line is I don't like setting up crafting loops and dealing with all that garbage. I mean, I could and I would if it was easy and simple. But this is pretty easy and simple. I already had a vacuum chest. I already had a timer. They aren't hard to make. Let's see, that is RF Tools, timer. That's just a clock and machine base, which is just some copper. So that's like, 4 gold, a few copper, some redstone. It's super cheap. Of course, redstone is cheap. I already had 20 some dispensers that I'd taken off of places in the world, like 3 or 4 pirate ships. So that's what I'm doing. So that's going to give us, actually, heck, we probably have enough. So maybe we should get this party started. Yeah, that should be enough. I don't know if I have enough obsidian or dark iron. So maybe I should pause here and craft us up some reinforced obsidian. Let's see, we're trying to do... How much dark iron do I have? I don't even know if I've taught dark iron. 34, and I need 4 per block, and I need maybe 100 blocks. So that's maybe more than 100 blocks. So I need about, I don't know, I'm going to guess around 500 dark iron bars, which means I need to make a bunch of dark iron. So I'm going to pause this now, and I'm going to work on the blocks for our Wither Boss prison, and I will be back shortly. And for the rest of this episode, we'll try to bust out enough blocks to make the holding pin for it, and then Industrial Foregoing has a Wither builder. This guy. Do I have everything I need for this? We manually killed some Wither bosses last time. So I have the skulls, I should have or can make a machine case. So nether star, yeah, so we can make this bad boy. Plastic, don't tell me I don't have plastic. Yeah, gotta craft some plastic. Anyway, we will go ahead and make the builder. I think I'm gonna steal I have a mob crusher that's sitting over under my cattle farm, which was the original spot for my monster farming. I don't think I need to do any more general all-purpose monster farming, so we'll probably steal that. So we'll have the Industrial Foregoing mob crusher, the Industrial Foregoing Wither builder. We'll have a whole stack or 2 of reinforced obsidian witherproof blocks, and we will build ourselves a nether star farm. Oh, another thing that I did while I was playing around was I went ahead and I think I did this after I cut out from last meeting or last episode. I went ahead and took our void miners to tier 4. Oh god, and I haven't even talked about Flux Network. All right, so I tell you what, we're gonna talk about a few other things now, and then maybe we'll do the wither thing at the beginning of the next episode. So I do have some important safety tips for this, but I wanted to show off Flux Networks because that was a whole big deal for me, and I really love them. So what we've got going on here, let's go upstairs and start at the start for Flux Networks. So if we run over here, oops, too far. So I made things. I have flux controllers. Flux controllers just sort of let you see what's going on with your little networks. And basically these are little, flux networks are little powerless wireless networks. Wireless, I guess is the best term, networks that allow you to just sort of share power everywhere by beaming it even across dimensions. And so what you could do is you can make multiple different different channels. So you can see I have bank it and spend it. For me, I like to set things up on Flux Networks where bank it is basically all of my power generation going into my energy storage. So as a for instance here, this is my generator that is making my advanced generators gas turbine generator, and I have a flux plug on it that you can see it's green as opposed to say red, and green is bank it, so the energy coming out of here is being put into the network by the flux plug. And so if we click on this, you can see it's inputting. Now the reason it's spasming like that is that I have no room. My storage is full again, so I have no room to be putting stuff into it. But it'll show you other things. So the input rate, it'll show you what it's getting. So the forge energy emitter is this block that it's sitting on, that is the power out for my advanced generator. The Americium RTG, I also plopped it down next to that, so it's feeding energy in there. And you can see if we look at, let's see, these are all the things that are sort of hooked up to it, and it'll give you the XYZ coordinates of where those flux controllers are. So it'll tell you stuff about the network. This is why you don't necessarily need one of those controllers, because you can get a lot of stuff just from clicking on any piece of the network. So this will give you an input rate, 175 going into bank it. It'll give you all sorts of stuff here. I don't remember because it's been forever. And this actually seems more complicated. You can change the colors of it. So I've changed bank it to green. You can change the energy types, so you can beam out EU if you want to be powering some industrial craft stuff for it. There's just all sorts of stuff you can do with this. It's really nice. So I'm collecting power into the Flux network, into the bank it network here. What does that do? What is that going on? What does that mean? What that means is that these flux points are where you take power out of the bank it network. You can see it's also green, and it's got an output of 175K, and it's going into the induction port at 175K. So you can see I did it to match the color here of my induction matrix. Green is an input port into my big storage. So this storage is at 51 giga EU. That doesn't seem right. Anyway, whatever. It's billions and billions and billions. So every flux plug that's on the bank it network, like here and on my nuclear fusion reactor, is beaming power into the induction casing. So that's bank it. And then we can take a look at spend it. So this is my other one. So on the spend it network, we have got lots of stuff. So you can see there's tons of flux points everywhere, etc. And so what that does is you can see I've got an output for my thing here, the little red plug on my induction matrix storage that has billions and billions and billions of RF. And the flux plug is putting stuff into the network, so it's taking stuff out of this box and putting it into the network. And it's inputting at 168K, and it's taking that out of the induction port. I created, just for kicks and giggles and to be complete, a spindit buffer called Herculean Storage. And so this is part of the network, and it's just got a buffer of 100 million in case something happens, like let's say I need to upgrade my induction casing or my induction matrix. That'll give me 100 million, buy me 100 million in time to like swap out the internal components. And then also, so Spindit, that's going to go everywhere that I want power. So you can see here I took all the wires down from the ceiling, and I've got, this is the closest flux point, I think. So basically I have a flux point here, which is putting power into this wire system and can power all of these machines. So if I turn on any of these machines, it'll just suck it from this flux point, which will get it from that flux plug. Likewise, I've got a flux point here. It's not actually doing anything because I think I'm supplying plenty of power from this Californium RTG to keep my ME running. What else have I got? I put a flux plug point here. I haven't used my arc furnace in forever, but I put one there, so if I ever want to power it up, again, it'll just get wireless power. And if we take a look upstairs, you're probably going, okay, we get the point. But again, I took all the wiring coming up through the floors, and now this flux point can power this entire wire network. And I put another flux point back in this wall. So this bad boy can basically power any conduits or cables hooked up to it, so I can run cable all the way down this line and not have to do anything else. Now here's where we get to the important safety tip. If we go up to our fusion reactor, our nuclear craft fusion reactor, so you may remember that I had a power cube on here hooked into my sort of input, what I considered my bank-it thing. So I was taking power out with the power cube and putting it into my induction matrix. And that was all fine and good. And I was using the fusion core, because it had plenty of power, to run cables out and power the electromagnet containment rings for our pink glowy plasma toroid. And that was all fine and good. The important safety tip was that I didn't prioritize power going from the fusion core to the electromagnets. So when I slapped this bad boy on it, now this is a bank-it flux plug, so it can pull energy out of this fusion core. And when I first put it on there last night, my induction matrix was not full. It had plenty of storage available. And so what this bad boy did was, because it doesn't really have a bandwidth problem, it literally sucked all the power out of my fusion core and kept sucking all the power out of my fusion core. And the fusion core no longer had power to keep its own electromagnets juiced up. And so the electromagnets started to turn red, exploding sounds started to go off, the fusion core went offline, the temperature started to drop. It was a whole deal. It was a whole extravaganza. And I should have thought about that, but I was too tired last night when I was doing this and too excited to get it set up. There's a couple of ways I could have easily dealt with that. With the Ender IO things in place, I could have prioritized, I could have set their priority to I could have set the insertion priority to the electromagnets higher, and then just put the plug on top of an Ender IO thing there and set the Ender IO insertion priority into the plug as lower, and that would have covered it. I could have, I don't know, I could have done a bunch of different things. So in the heat of the moment, some of the things I did was I just went, oh crap, and slapped a bunch of spindits on here to get power coming back to the rings. So you can see here, this guy has got this guy is directly touching a flux point for spindit, and then and it has 64,000 out of 64,000, and then as you move away from that, it falls off. And then you get back over here, and we're at 64,000 again because I got another one. And each flux point on this side touches both the top ring, this top circle of or square of electromagnets, and this middle outside one. And then down here, down here, I have a ring of flux points touching the bottom and the inside ring. And so you can see here where it's touching the bottom, 64,000, starts to fall off, 57,000, 56, and it starts to go back up, 60, 64, where it touches this flux point. So I slapped a bunch of these down. I lost enough heat that when I started the reaction back up, I was down around, I don't know, 60, 70% efficiency. But now we're climbing back up towards 98% efficiency. I took my coolant offline for a while just to get faster up from that, I don't know, I was around 60% efficiency to get that back up. And I've got my coolant, as you can see now, back at 100%. So everything's going good now. But there was a moment of panic. So that's how I've got it set up right now. This thing is generating back up near 1.6 million RF per tick. One of the things, safety measures I've put in place is for now I put a transfer limit of 100 million on, or 1 million I should say, on this guy. And I have a priority 0 here. I think the biggest safety tip now is that I've got my spindit. I've got all these guys set at priority 100. So let's say that I am running a ton of machines, like my void miners are a good one. My void miners are set at, I think, priority 5. The default is 0, and I think they're set at like 0 or 5. So in other words, if my ME needs power, my ME system needs power, or these electromagnets need power, they get it first. So if anything happens to my induction matrix, these guys will be the last things to go offline. And instead of, if anything happens here, like let's say I were to just bust this, just knock a block out and deactivate the whole damn thing, that's not going to change the fact that I've got billions and billions and billions of power in my induction matrix continuing to feed this ring. So now keeping the ring powered is not dependent on this guy. So if something happens to my fuel, or something happens to one of these blocks and my fusion reactor goes offline for any reason, that's not going to change the fact that my electromagnets will maintain confinement. So now I just have to remember that if I do anything to my induction matrix, then I only have a 100 million buffer from that Herculean storage buffer before things get serious for my electromagnets. So if we look at that, that is this guy. So it's got 100 million. So that's now the weak point in my system, is if I go to do anything to my induction matrix, like swap it out and upgrade it, I've only got 100 million, which is plenty, should be plenty, to keep my electromagnets going. Now what I could do, and what I might do, is double up this system. So in other words, I could reinstall power cables, and have power cables going from the fusion core out to the rings like I had before. And that way, if anything happened to my induction matrix, it could take care of itself. So that way, so then I'd have that redundancy. If anything happens to the induction matrix, the fusion core will cover itself. If anything happens to the fusion core, the induction matrix will cover it. So I might do that. I just sort of like the cleanness of this. I like that I don't have a lot of cables running to and from the fusion core. And I don't want to get too paranoid. I mean, the only thing that really happened was I was stupid and I plopped something that could beam basically all the power out of my fusion core and all power that it was creating out of it without really thinking about the consequences. And I won't make that mistake again unless I'm really tired, in which case, oh well, things happen. But as for the rest of this system, everything is fine. I left power cubes on these ones just because I now have a glut of power cubes. Our fuel production is great. Everything is fine here. The only change I made over here was that since I have so much power production now, I went ahead and took one of my RTGs and put it as the power source for my powered spawner. And the reason I did that is because it's slow, it doesn't create a ton of power, so it's sort of just by itself limiting how fast the Endermen spawn here. And this is a overkill for creation of pearls to be melted into resonant ender to be piped out to my one active cooler that uses resonant ender to cover half my cooling needs roughly, or a little over half my cooling needs for this bad boy. And those RTGs are now pretty meaningless to my overall power generation, so just throwing one over there is fine and dandy. So that is Flux Networks, and that's how we roll now. If we want to take that one step further, and this is all fine and good. This would be good enough. This would make me happy enough with Flux Networks. But if we want to take this a step further, what this will also do is, if we teleport to the dark, it works across dimensions. Yeah. Oops, and I forgot to update my teleport spot to where my new digital miner stuff is. So here we go. So this bad boy is running. It's chugging along. It is doing its thing. I did set this up and check it. This is actually my second digital miner run in the deep dark, and it is pulling up both. I think I remember seeing draconium. No, I can't remember. I set this up late last night after already dealing with a fusion reaction emergency. But it is pulling up the nuclear craft metals. But the key thing here is, boom, being powered by a flux point. So I am beaming power across dimensions now. So that means anything I want to do on any dimension, I've got power for it. I don't have to worry about setting up power in that dimension. I don't have to worry about bringing a huge energy cell with hundreds of millions of RF stored up to power things on battery power. I'm just good to go. So that's the other thing. Flux Networks would make me happy enough. You throw this bit of fun on there, and I'm ecstatic to have Flux Networks open. So let's head on back. And is there anything else I wanted to say about Flux Networks? I think that's about it. You can see I got flux points here. So I'm now powering these guys. Everything is being powered out of the huge storage induction matrix. We can check on this, and we have, it seems, consumed all of our... oops, don't need two of those. We have consumed all of our flint and steels, which is fine. How are we doing here? We got another We got plenty for now. So after I stop filming the episode, I'll make another box full of flint and steels, or another load full, and run them back over there. After making this witherproof stuff, I'm not sure how much more grains of infinity I'll need. I'll have to look at its uses. Pardon me, I'll have to look at its uses and see if I'm worried about collecting a huge amount more. I don't think I am. I think the let's see. I don't know what this infinity reagent is or how much I'll need it, but just looking here, I think this is the only mass production of infinity grains I'm going to need. So I'll probably just fill up those guys with flint and steel one more time and call it good. So I'm going to make a bunch of dark iron, make a bunch of dark iron bars, make sure I have enough obsidian, do all that garbage. I'll construct a bunch of witherproof blocks. I'll make my wither builder. I'll go collect my mob crusher from my old mob farm. I'll pick a place to set this all up, and then we will play around with setting up a wither farm. And I'll check the runtime, and depending how detailed it is, we'll come back and see how much time I have to spend on doing that. So be back in a second. And I'm back. And at the beginning of this episode, I said that we had tried using these chironite. These are like the tier 2 crystals out of the void miner for ore, chironite, and it says it's witherproof and only players can break. And I said that, we had tried those, but it didn't seem to contain the wither. And then as I was finishing up the episode, I thought to myself, wait a minute, that doesn't make a whole lot of sense. And fortunately, I'm filming all of this, so I went back and looked at our test, and I actually made the soul sand T too big and too high. So when it spawned into the roof of our cage and escaped out the top. So was my theory. So I came back to our Twilight Forest test facility and am trying it out. And so as you can see, I've rebuilt our prison here. Oh, how funny, there's zombies spawned in there with him. So I rebuilt our trap here. It is a hollow 5x5 base, 6 high. And what I did correct this time, which I did not do last time, was it's only a 4-block T. And what I did the first time, which was incorrect, was I made something that actually looked like a capital T. And since this was high, the wither spawned in the roof of our structure and escaped out the top. And so now it looks like this is relatively safe. I spawned them in there with the right-sized T of soul sand. So he spawned one lower. And he doesn't seem to be able to escape. He doesn't seem to be able to shoot through. He's not even killing the skeleton that's in there. Hey, and I can shoot him through the wall. So that's another important safety tip here. I didn't think I could shoot him through the wall before, but I can. I just did 64 points of damage to him with one. Let's try that again. It's just targeting him is sort of hard because I can't see him through the wall. Normally sorry if he's too loud, but normally that Illuminati that comes off of the refined glowstone laser medium outlines things in white so you can see him through walls. So finding his hitbox is a little hard. Oh, did I kill him? I think I killed him. Alright, so we now know a lot more than we did. Um, and I'll make a note in the description when I publish that last video that, whoops, maybe I'll try and figure out how my video editor, and so I can put an important safety note in that one. The other unfortunate thing, though, was then when I went back to look at this video, at the start of that last video and most of the video before it had no sound, so there was some problem with my mic. So I might have to look into voicing over things as well. Or we might just have a jump and maybe I'll just film a review video. So if you're coming from that and it's choppy or it was a review video or whatever, now you know why. So yeah, let's just run this test one more time to be exhaustive. But I think the chironite is fine. I don't think we actually need to. We went to the bother of it's funny that skeleton spawned in there with him. It's funny to, I mean, it's nice to have some grains of infinity, but I don't think we're going to need them. And let's try this bad boy one more time. Just make sure that it wasn't a fluke that he stayed in this time. So 1, 2. Let me get this out so I can close the door. 3. Boink, boink. Okay, so that initial destruction, or that initial spawning point, did hurt me a little. Didn't seem to do anything to the blocks, but it might hurt me, so that's something to keep in mind. We probably will set this up. He's hurting himself. We probably will set up this in the overworld, but I might make it a ways away from my base just to be safe. But yeah, he's not hurting the chironite, and I don't think he's hurting things. I think he shoots 2 different types of skulls, like black ones and blue ones, and the blue ones are nastier. So I'm gonna give him a second here to shoot some stuff. I think the blue ones are the ones that are hurting him. And dead. Alright, I think that's enough testing. So we're good to go. We don't need to make all of those things. All of those witherproof stuff, and funnily enough, we now have a crap ton of grains of infinity that we don't need. But, so that was a little bit of wasted effort. But I'm sure we will think of something to do with them at some point. So let's head on back. Since I did bother to set this up, it looks like it's run through another set of picks. So we've got flint and steels. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So we got 20 of these bad boys, and that is what 20 of these did with 1 flint and steel. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, a little over 12. So maybe a half a stack each with 1 flint and steel with this setup. The RF Tools timer, just to provide a source. You could probably do this with something even cheaper, but I wanted to try this guy out. And the dispensers were stolen from pirate ships and just sitting in my bank anyway, because I'm a pack rat like that. And the vacuum chest from Ender.io I made for general all purposes, because it's good to have one of these around, because you never know when you're going to need to do something like this. Actually, I was using this ahead when I had to make a few of these manually. I used this just out of kicks and giggles then, so I could just spam. But I very quickly got bored with doing this manually. So I'm going to pull, I'll leave that there for right now, just in case I decide I need more. Bottom line, don't necessarily need to set that up if you're getting into the wither a lot faster than I got into the wither, and a lot earlier. And you've already got the tier 2 void miner for ore, and you've got chironite, you should be good to go. So if we look at, what's the first one called again? Litherite. I don't think a litherite block will do the trick from the tier 1, but let's double check. No, it does not say that it's witherproof, so you do want to get to the tier 2 chironite if you're going this route, and you want to avoid dealing with these witherproof blocks. And there's probably other ways to skin this cat. That's just the way I'm doing it. But yeah, now we have a ton of grains of infinity, so that's beautiful. We'll throw those in the bank. I'm sure they'll come. I got to turn that clicking timer off. Die. All right. I'll just leave that in place for now because you never know when we're going to need that setup again. But we're good to go. So now I have to go back and figure out, I hadn't uploaded the last couple episodes yet from the weekend to YouTube yet, and I got to figure out if I want to try and voice over them or just do a quick recap video for those lost couple of hours of time. Yeah, got to deal with that. The joys of attempting to publish stuff when you're not a pro. I'm not an expert at Minecraft and not an expert at YouTube and making videos. But hey, something to do. You don't get to be an expert without trying, right? So until next time, this is Grimweird signing out. Oh wait, what am I going to do next time? Oh, I'm going to make never mind. We're going to make our Nether Star farm with our Wither Boss out of chironite. So it's going to be a weird shade of plum purple. That's our next thing on the agenda. Bye.